This is Jakarta, Indonesia, one of the world's biggest megacities in an urban cluster of 13 million inhabitants. In the bouncing heart of Southeast Asia, BUSWORLD landed for a tremendous first-time international mobility bus and coach exhibition.
I have a very good feeling.
BUSWORLD being right on time in an extremely challenging era for a country of 260 million inhabitants. It became the key factor for a smash hit in the core of the collective transport and bus and coach market. The first edition welcomed the biggest and most popular bus and coach manufacturers and bodybuilders of Indonesia: Mercedes-Benz, Volvo Buses, New Armada and Laksana. All of the key brands were here and 7,000 unique visitors came to the venue together with the international professional press.
Opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting you the Volvo B11R and Volvo.
Launching new products like the Volvo B11R or the Mercedes-Benz OF917, updating the audience and the press, open-air ceremonies for new buses, and presenting companies with accessories and components. It all took part in the JI Expo on BUSWORLD Indonesia 2019. The market for buses and coaches in Indonesia was clearly waiting for an exhibition like this. The two core organizing partners of BUSWORLD International, the Federation of Young Bus and Coach Operators IPOMI and the Federation of Bus Bodybuilders in Indonesia, Askerindo, did a great job in bringing together the operators, the decision makers and all lovers of buses and coaches in the country. Checking out the latest designs of buses and coaches, components and spare parts on BUSWORLD is easily combined with attending presentations, seminars and expert classes at a conference organized by BUSWORLD Academy. 350 people from 30 countries came to listen to speakers and international mobility specialists from more than 15 countries. BUSWORLD Southeast Asia 2019 exceeded all expectations and was a real bullseye for the bus and coach community. This is Jakarta, Indonesia, one of the world's biggest megacities in an urban cluster of 13 million inhabitants. In the bouncing heart of Southeast Asia, BUSWORLD landed for a tremendous first-time international mobility bus and coach exhibition.
I have a very good feeling.
BUSWORLD being right on time in an extremely challenging era for a country of 260 million inhabitants. It became the key factor for a smash hit in the core of the collective transport and bus and coach market. The first edition welcomed the biggest and most popular bus and coach manufacturers and bodybuilders of Indonesia: Mercedes-Benz, Volvo Buses, New Armada and Laksana. All of the key brands were here and 7,000 unique visitors came to the venue together with the international professional press.
Once again, opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting you the Volvo B11R and Volvo.
Launching new products like the Volvo B11R or the Mercedes-Benz OF917. Updating the audience and the press, open-air ceremonies for new buses, and presenting companies with accessories and components. It all took part in the JI Expo on BUSWORLD Indonesia 2019. The market for buses and coaches in Indonesia was clearly waiting for an exhibition like this. The two core organizing partners of BUSWORLD International, the Federation of Young Bus and Coach Operators IPOMI and the Federation of Bus Bodybuilders in Indonesia, Askarindo, did a great job in bringing together the operators, the decision makers and all lovers of buses and coaches in the country. Checking out the latest designs of buses and coaches, components and spare parts on BUSWORLD is easily combined with attending presentations, seminars and expert classes at a conference organized by BUSWORLD Academy. 350 people from 30 countries came to listen to speakers and international mobility specialists from more than 15 countries. BUSWORLD Southeast Asia 2019 exceeded all expectations and was a real bullseye for the bus and coach community.
Good afternoon. Welcome to all speakers and attendees who join us at BUSWORLD Southeast Asia webinar series, session 7. Welcome to the webinar held by GEM Indonesia and BUSWORLD Foundation. I'm Bun Liun, your MC today. Before we start the program, let us welcome Mr. Bakili, the director of GEM Indonesia, to deliver his opening speech of today's webinar. Mr. Baki, please take over the stage.
Okay. Can you hear me, Leon?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat siang, para narasumber dan Bapak Ibu yang hadir melalui platform Zoom hari ini. Thank you to all speakers today and our supporting partners. Ms. Faila Sufa, Director of ITDP Southeast Asia, atau singkatan Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. Terima kasih, Mr. Jazali Firdaus, Chief Operations Officer of PT Optima Integrated Technical, and Mr. David Jetro Kusumo, Operational Manager of PT Adiputro Wirasejati, and Mr. Jen, Managing Director of BUSWORLD Foundation, and BUSWORLD Media Funnels, and BUSWORLD Supporting Associations, Askarindo, IPOMI, and Masyarakat Transportation Indonesia, and ITDP, and else. And our special to our moderators, Mr. Haria Dillon atau Pak Koko. Selamat siang semuanya. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Puji syukur kehadiran Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, sehingga kemurahan hati kita hari ini kita bisa berkumpul pada sesi BUSWORLD yang ke-7 Semoga semua tetap antusias untuk mengikuti BUSWORLD hari ini. Ladies and gentlemen, it's honor for us to welcome you in the BUSWORLD Southeast Asia Webinar Series Session 7, with the theme of the transportation of Indonesia buses to the new clean energy. BUSWORLD webinar is reaching a 7th session today, since the pandemic hit us. There's no other way for us to keep connecting but using online platform. However, today we still unable to meet again, but we still have an opportunity to through the BUSWORLD webinar connection to our BUSWORLD webinar today. We like to inform all of you that is good news for us, that we must reschedule BUSWORLD Southeast Asia exhibition physical platform to the 5 until 7 October 2022. Kami menginformasikan kepada seluruh audiens yang di Indonesia maupun di luar negeri bahwa BUSWORLD Southeast Asia 2022 yang seharusnya diselenggarakan pada tanggal 23 sampai 25 Maret 2022 dan terpaksa harus kami geser atau kami tunda menggantikan ke Oktober tahun 2022 ini. Kami mengerti kondisi sekarang ini masa pandemi mungkin akan lebih bagus dan lebih leluasa jika diselenggarakan di bulan Oktober 2022 ini. Currently, the trend of the new infection in global or Indonesia has been decreased, but we want to ensure the physical exhibition can run smoothly without any restriction. We do not want to disappoint all the exhibitors who have invested their time, energy, and money to participate in this important bus and coach event in Indonesia. Although we can hold this exhibition physically by ensuring health protocols, but we still have to consider several aspects of the exhibition safety and quarantine regulation for all exhibitors, VIP guests, international press, and international visitors coming from abroad, because Indonesia still have regulation for quarantine for 3 days. So this is one of the factors for us to change the schedule to October. In fact, BUSWORLD Southeast Asia 2022 will be participated by the 4 largest autobus in Indonesia: Laksana, New Armada, Adiputro, and Tantrum. And together with the BUSWORLD Southeast Asia, we hope those Indonesia's autobus could be a global player and to bring the group to international. So we hope Indonesia's autobus become one of the global players through the BUSWORLD Southeast Asia. We also found that some of our exhibitors from the overseas still had a difficulty to apply the e-visa. The number of e-visas available is according to the quota. So some reason for us, we have to change the schedule because of the restriction, the quarantine. The second is the e-visa application. This is a problem for us. So we have to change the schedule, the BUSWORLD to the October. We understand BUSWORLD is a global autobus and coach show. So we need more international visitors, buyers, international press to attend the expo. So we hope in the October will be more savers and more convenience for all exhibitor, visitor to coming to Indonesia from the abroad. So actually Indonesia, we already got the information from the Ministry of the Tourism that Indonesia has a plan to reopen the foreign visitor without restriction starting from the April. So we hope the policy still going on until the October. So we have got more international visitor and VIP guests from the abroad. For 2022, Indonesia is trusted to hold a G-20 Presidency. So the time this event will be recovered together and recover stronger. There will be 3 issues to be brought up. The one of regarding the sustainable energy transition, which is in the line in our today's topics. Ladies and gentlemen, today's BUSWORLD and GEM Indonesia continue to present the 7th sessions of the BUSWORLD webinar with the theme, the transformation of Indonesia buses to new clean energy. We believe this message lady firm and present to you and will be more interesting to us. And to all outstanding speakers and moderators today, thank you for being with us. I believe all of you, good participation will be enlightenment all of us. Akhir kata, kami mengharap Anda semua yang berada di virtual hari ini akan mendapat pengalaman dan masukan yang berharga dari BUSWORLD Southeast Asia Webinar Session 7 pada hari ini. Saya Bakili dari GEM Indonesia. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Baki, for the opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, today we will hold BUSWORLD Southeast Asia Webinar Series, Session 7, with the theme, The Transformation of Indonesian Buses to New Clean Energy. And the main session will be managed by Mr. Harya S. Dillon, or known as Mr. Koko, the Secretary General of Indonesian Transportation Society, or Masyarakat Transportasi Indonesia. Today we have 3 outstanding speakers joining us. The first one, Ms. Faila Sufa, the Director of ITDP Southeast Asia, or Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. Second speaker is Mr. Jazali Firdaus, Chief Operation Officer of PT Optima Integra Technica, and Mr. David Jetro Kusumo, Operational Manager of PT Adiputro Wirasejati. And here is a bit introduction of our moderator, Mr. Harya S. Dillon. Since May 2019, Pak Koko becomes a Secretary General of Indonesian Transportation Society, where beforehand he was an urban mobility consultant of GIZ, a German government organization. He was also a consultant for transport for Southeast Asia and Pacific of the World Bank, National Urban Transport Support Program, or NUTSP. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I will hand the stage over to Mr. Koko for our next session. Pak Koko,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leon. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm really excited to be here today. But first of all, I would like to wish everybody good health. I hope you are all safe and healthy, and your family as well. We just heard from Pabakili that due to recent COVID outbreaks and also difficulties in international travel, we had to postpone BUSWORLD offline event to October. But that should not stop us from being really enthusiastic here today, because we're going to hear from 3 very distinguished, excellent speakers about our topic today, which is the transformation towards clean energy for our buses. And indeed, the transformation or the switch towards electromobility in Indonesia is somewhat overdue. I think we had ambitious plans before the pandemic, but I think now it's time to really, accelerate the transformation. And I think we will learn, and I'm sure we will learn today about where we at and what are the steps that we need to take moving forward. And that, and I'm sure, as Pak Baki mentioned, this is the year where all the spotlights is headed towards Indonesia during the presidency of G20. This is a momentum that I think was going to be very beneficial for our electromobility transformation. With that, I would like to welcome and introduce Ms. Fela Sufa, our first speaker. Fela holds a master's degree in urban transportation planning from the University of Leeds in the UK. She's currently the Southeast Asia Director of ITDP since 2019, and she's also a council member at the Global Future Council on Clean Air at the World Economic Forum. Very impressive. And today she will be speaking about the transformation of clean buses and new energy, and we're talking about specifically electric bus business and financing model. And I'm sure this presentation will set the tone for today's discussion. With that, I would like to welcome Fela to the screen.
Thank you, Koko. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me share my presentation. Yeah. For today's presentations regarding the electric buses, I would like to share about the innovative financing mechanism on the electric buses, because as we know that currently the high capital cost or capex for bus itself and also charging infrastructure is very challenging. This is the outline of my presentation, but yeah, this is a lot, but I'm gonna make it quick. Before we discuss further regarding the future business model that we can propose, I think we need to understand the current situations. So the conventional business and financing models, so it's usually on procurement or management contractings by the management body. So then this resource of finance is from grant, subsidy, loans, equity, or from the MDBs. Or others is we can buy directly or capital lease and then operating lease. The source of the financing is from a leasing company, or it's been implemented in several cities as well in Indonesia with gross cost contract or net contracts. So source of the finance is from the bus operators. So bus operator will provide the fleets, and then the management body or the government will compensate the operational of the operators based on the kilometer fees. So this is the example of current business and financing model for Transjakarta. So yeah, so the government of Jakarta will provide subsidy or PSO for Transjakarta operations, and then Transjakarta itself, beside they manage the operationals, actually they own like several fleets as well. And then they also manage the fleets from the operators. And then Transjakarta will implement the gross cost contract to several operators, and operator itself will be paid based on the service provided or fee per kilometer. And therefore, the operator should follow the service level agreement that has been issued by the transport authority. And then this is the ICE bus business model, and also the difference between the ICE and e-bus business model. With the change of technology, it also leads to shift the business model to be more innovative. There are a lot of parameters that we can use. For example, the first is CapEx component, and then infrastructure, supporting infrastructure, and then contract years, fleet model availability, and also the stakeholder involved in their business model. So the difference between the ICE and e-bus for the CapEx is mostly it's on fleets procurement. So usually the highest cost for capital cost is on the fleets. But for the e-bus, beside on the fleets, because of like the batteries as well, there are also additional requirement to provide like charging infrastructure. So we need to also invest on the charging infrastructure. And then there also like supporting infrastructure in the ICE bus. Usually the bus will refilling the energy that can be done at a public gas stations. But on the e-bus, it needs charging infrastructure, which currently have not yet been available. And then the contract year in Transjakarta itself, it's maximum 10 years, and other could be 7 years. It depends on the maintenance of the bus. But for the e-bus, to be able to have more efficient finance business model, so the contract could be longer, which is can be 15 to 16 years. That's based on the twice life cycle of batteries. And then for fleet model availability, so we know that because this technology is already established for longer time, so many models are currently available worldwide. But for the e-bus, the model are relatively limited as now. Yeah, we've discussed it before this session as well, that mostly the model that available is only like 12 meters, and maybe like later is a medium bus or 7 to 9 meters. But for the higher like articulated is still limited in the market. And then stakeholder involved, mostly only a few. For example, like transport authority, operators, public transport authority, or management company. But in the e-bus model, so the stakeholder involved will be wider. So it also involves like energy companies such as like PLN, maybe like on the business model, usually we just like bought the bus from the EOM, but maybe the EOM in the future could also involve on the business model. So there is a lot of stakeholder involved in this e-bus deployment. This is the example of business and financing models around the globe. For example, like a business model for Transjakarta e-bus pilot. that hopefully soon will be deployed in Jakarta. We have done the analysis and we identify pros and cons of its business model that have been conducted around the world. It's not only in Indonesia because it's only a few, but other countries in Latin America and then in India or in Europe. So for Transjakarta, for example, the pros is a safe responsibility of depot charging infrastructure and e-fleet investment from Transjakarta to other third parties or operator. And then, so Transjakarta doesn't have responsibility for equipment end of life. And then the cons is operators difficult to finance the purchase of the fleets and infrastructure and provide the infrastructure. This is the possibility because of the investment will be higher now compared to the diesel buses. And then high upfront capital cost for electric bus procured by operator that could lead monopoly for only a few operator that can enter these businesses. And then adds to operational budget and increase subsidy for Transjakarta as well. And the business model which involve like battery leasing model. So then the operator could procure the bus without the battery. So the battery, they will lease the battery from the third party or from the energy company. The process, it can reduces upfront capital expenses and then lesser maintenance responsibility for battery performance and lesser responsibility as well for equipment and of life for the battery. And then the cons is splitting ownership between the battery and the bus and the battery will add the complexity. And then it could also add to operational budget. Or the bus leasing model, of course, it will reduces upfront capital expenses and then lesser maintenance responsibility for a bus performance. And then it's also lesser responsibility for equipment end of life. But the cons is it adds to operational budget, of course. And then next is utility ownership of charging infrastructure. So charging infrastructure will owned by a utility company, and then the operator could lease the utilities from the energy company. So then it will save responsibility of charging investment, of course, and then reduce upfront capital expenses, and specialization of company will be involved here. And it may result in criticism of for reducing the competition. And then others is energy or transportation as a service. It will shift responsibility of charging investment and infrastructure away from transit agency, and spreads e-bus cost premium over the bus life cycles. And the cons is, unfortunately, this model has not been implemented in the transportation sector, and it, of course, would implicate on the more complex or contractual complexity. Or outright purchase with existing fund or grants. Of course, it will be easier to be implemented, and then this will be a simpler business and contracting mechanism as well, because we just purchase the infrastructure. But the cons is all the risks will be taken from the government side, and then it's not feasible for local government, especially with low fiscal capacity. And then the last is outright for purchase with market or concessional loans. The pros is funding option for local government with low fiscal capacity, and then it will have a comprehensive plan for project deliverable, as usually it's requested by the lender. So for this business model, all the risk will taken from the government side. This is the example, this chart is the example of bus leasing model that implemented in Santiago de Chile, although it will be very difficult to be replicated, but yeah, I would like to share here. So there is a bus management company, private operators called Medbus. Is a private bus operator that operates and maintain buses as part of the public transport system in Santiago, Santiago. And then this Medbus, they partner with NLX. NLX is maybe here is a PLN, like this is utility company, and also BYD, the bus manufacturer. And the business model separates the ownership of the bus from their operation and also maintenance. NLX owns the charging infrastructures and the bus. And then they will lease to the operator, which is Medbus, under 10-year leasing contract. And maintenance of the electric bus engines and battery are conducted between Medbus and also BYD. And the bids for the bus fleet provider tenders are evaluated based on the total cost of ownership for the bus. Bus leasing model for this. So entity one is a utility company, that's NLX. Actually, there is like a tender, and then private bus operator. This is Medbus, and OEM BYD. City Transit Authority is this is will guarantee payment of payment to leasing company, and they also bring the financial administrator to deduct lease fee from operator's fee and remits directly to NLX, which is that owns the bus and also charging infrastructure. So another business model is energy or transportation as a service. This known as PACE model. The process is the bus operator orders the e-bus from the OEM, and then the utility company will finance the battery and charging infrastructure, and then OEM will provide warranty and maintenance. The advantage of this business model is utilization of financial strength and intrinsic role of utility in the energy provisions, and then the monopoly from the utility company can control supply of electricity for both charging, and removing the battery cost from the e-bus will make the cost for the e-bus will be similar as a diesel bus, and then it will also generate revenue sources for utility company. This is our analysis for Transjakarta. This is our proposals. Instead of still practicing the conventional business model, which is cost contract, which will have like a higher impact on the operators mainly. So Transjakarta could do an agreement with a bank or investor to support the capital capabilities of operators. And then the operator will cooperate with PLN or other potential third parties like Pertamina maybe for the provision of battery or electricity. OEMs could provide e-bus without battery to the operators, and then the APM will maintain the service of the e-bus. This is our second proposals that can be assessed by Transjakarta. So OEM will provide e-bus fleet, and APM will provide maintenance services to the leasing companies. And the operators will operate e-bus on a wet lease scheme. And PLN and other potential third parties could provide charging services to the operators, and Transjakarta will give guarantees the leasing company and PLN payment the assurance. Is it my
Rafaela,
time?
you have, yes, almost.
Okay. So for the financing, this is my last presentations, I hope. We could also utilize PTSMI as one of the special missions vehicles under the Ministry of Finance, which is engaged in financing and preparing infrastructure project. So why PTSMI is because PTSMI focuses on infrastructure financing, and the financing scheme and cycles independent from fiscal years, and then they could also give a long-term financing. And then they also have the alternative financing for regional infrastructure and various financing scheme that can be accessed, for example, from green financings. And we also see the opportunities that it's still, of course, need to have approval from DPRD or regional parliament, and it also needs endorsement from other parties as well. And alternative funding could also cover like the deficit of APBD, and it could accelerate the achievement of regional development program or target. For example, like Transjakarta now, they have target to electrify 100% buses or 80% buses in 2030. Yeah, I will skip this. I think that's all for my presentations today. If you have any question for me, you can write it on the Q&A box, and then hopefully we can discuss it later. Thank you, Coco.
Thank you so much, Rafaela, for your presentation, setting the tone for today's discussion. And indeed, you know, there are many things that needs to be considered in planning our transformation towards electromobility, and there are business risks associated with this transformation. And hopefully, we will get to discuss on you know, which of the parties is best responsible for these known risks. So thank you again, Rafaela. So next we have Pak Jazali Firdaus. He's an expert in control systems, and he's currently the COO, Chief Operating Officer at Optima Integra, and he has been in that position since 2020. And since 1996, he has been an instrument and a control system engineer in various companies and organizations. And today, his presentation will be about the readiness of EV charging infrastructure in Indonesia. Pak Jazali, the time is yours for the next 15 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Koko, for the opportunity, and thank you for the BUSWORLD Southeast Asia webinar, session 7. So, good afternoon, everybody. Now, we are in Indonesia facing the transformation from the ICE to the EV. Now, currently, we have like a tax coming from our surrounding. That PT Optima is mainly like infrastructure EV charging provider, which is we have also license to sell the electricity. I think we can start with my presentation. Mbak Myra, please help me because I have limited bandwidth here. Sorry, Ms. Liun.
Yes, hold on.
Please help. I already sent my presentation to Myra because I have limitation bandwidth here.
Okay, I will help you to share
Okay,
screen.
please help.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. We're talking here in Indonesia is about the readiness of the infrastructure for both. Actually, there is two infrastructure, which is the charging station itself and the power electricity availability. So please, next. Okay, I think I try to collect some level, which is in Indonesia. We have there is no clear level on the infrastructure EV charging, which is we can follow the EV charging system overview here. We have level 1, which means we put the EV charging on a home appliance, and we can also put the level 2 in the some public areas, which is in the residential public charging function, but stay on the residential area. And then on the level 3, we have DC charging, which is there is charging unit that can give the power more faster than the level 1 and level 2. The fourth part is DC ultra fast charging, which is this is the highest level of the charging station. Based on the regulation here in Indonesia, which is released by the Permen ISDM number 13 tahun 2020. This is mentioned that the charging station, which is named as SPKLU, yaitu Stasiun Pengisian Kendaraan Listrik Umum, is limited with the connector which are CCS2, CHAdeMO, and Type 2 only. In our understanding, the limitation on the technology of the connector is not supposed to be on regulation, because some of the manufacturer using the G-20, which is the Chinese standard for the connection gun. So currently, maybe some of the OEM of for the bus quite I think the confused here, because in the regulation we only have CCS, which is related to the European standard, CHAdeMO is related to the Japanese standard, and Type 2, which is the AC charging for the AC charging. This limitation is quite make confused, because if somebody buy the e-bus coming from the China will be coming with the G-20, it will be difficult to find where the charging point that available with the GB gun connector. This is the problem. So that's why in PT Optima we do that we provide also the GB standard for the in our EV charging station, just to ensure that everybody that have a EV can do charging in everywhere in our EV charging station. I think please next on the next presentation. Here the one that Permen ESDM number 13 tahun 2020 only mention the 3 types of the socket type. This is not easy for OEM, because some of them use also the China standard. That's why in EV charging station provided by PT Optima, we provide all the type of the gun connector. This is will give more flexible to everybody to get assurance on confidential level that can make everybody to use the EV. Please next. This is one of our business model. We can do custom build for the EV, for the EV charging station, which is there is 3 model of business scheme that you have: the custom build, investment, and charger series. I think I will explain more widely on the investment side, because in my understanding is like this. For the electric bus for the public transportation, supposed to be we see this item as the ecosystem, because e-bus supposed to be get assurance where they going to be charged. That's why in my understanding, the e-bus and the infrastructure itself, it's supposed to be within one ecosystem. We cannot split between charging infrastructure and the e-bus in the 2 different ways, because I think the simple example is like this. When you put one route, which is for the public transportation, it's supposed to be the e-bus assigned to that route have a certain operation mode. With a certain operation mode, the e-bus manufacturer can optimize the battery size according to the infrastructure that to be built in that route. This is what I'm thinking, and we are thinking in PT Optima, because like this, if the e-bus built in optimization way, then the battery size and the distance that they will do the charging will be exactly and customized. So in one route, if the e-bus ascend in one route, it doesn't mean that this e-bus cannot be shared with other route, because in other route will be in the different mode of operation. This is our way of thinking how to optimize and to manage the e-bus. This is now we have some joint operation with one of the e-bus manufacturer to set up this. That's why, based on our discussion within this joint operation, then we know that their e-bus manufacturer, they can make the e-bus more efficient and optimized based on the mode operation that to be performed. This is what I'm thinking. And in here with in this buzzword also we have open discussion with all of everybody here present in this webinar, because we have three kind of the business model. There is a custom build, investment, and charger sales also. This is we can do case by case discussion and so on. So we can. I agree with some of the statement coming from the first speaker with Ms. Vaila, that some of the benchmark in the child, it cannot be implemented in Indonesia, because this is based on the what kind of mode operation we have here in Indonesia. This will be totally different. That's why some of the reference in the previous presentation mentioned by Ms. Vaila that it cannot be implemented.
Yeah.
And next.
Pak Jazali, you have about
Yes.
5 minutes, yeah, Pak, yeah?
Okay.
Thank you, Pak, yeah.
Okay. Next presentation, please. Okay, we have also the EV charging potential location. This is like a bus stop, bus pool, shopping center, highway rest area, hotel.
Is it me or Pak Jazali is having network issues?
No, Coco. I think we lost connection with Jazali.
Okay. William, is there any... Oh, should we just wait then? Or maybe we return to Pak Jazali later?
It's up to you, Pak Coco.
Okay. Well, with apologies to Pak Jazali, I think we can come back to his presentation or his in a Q&A sharing session. But I would like to move on, and let's introduce and welcome Pak David Jetro Kusumo, our next speaker. David is the operational manager at Adiputra Wirasejati, a bodybuilder and in the bus industry, very famous. Those of you in the bus industry in Indonesia will have heard of him, Adiputra. And today we will hear from him about his special project, and that is the monocoque low-deck medium EV bus that is built in Indonesia. Pak David, the time is yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Pak Coco. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Thank you for the time, Mr. Coco, and all other attendees and speakers. Today, I'll be very brief. Before I start, Ms. Leon, could you display my presentation, please? The text presentation. Okay, can we start with pitch number 2, please? Okay. Since last year, we are developing a medium bus, especially with a monocoque frame. the idea of we making this because we understand not all the road, not just in Indonesia, I believe in other countries too, not all the road is accessible by big bus. And then that's why from that thought we try to develop a new design, which is right now everybody's been talking and discussing about EV bus, but big bus. I haven't heard many about talking about the medium bus. So we initiate to develop the medium bus, especially with the monocoque. 2 points about this project, especially with the monocoque medium bus. It's first, of course, like I said, is not all the roads can be accessed by big buses. And then second of all, we are also not just focusing the EV bus or the size, but also for the function of this monocoque low deck, especially low deck medium bus, because we try to also to facilitate people with those special needs, or we can say the handicapped people. Later on the video presentation, you can see our testimonial from the passenger that have been using this bus is quite, I'm quite happy with the result. So hopefully this bus can be also used, especially for the green energy industry in our industry. Probably I would say this medium bus also we need some government involvement, especially to hopefully we encourage the government they can realign their regulation. Like I mentioned before the session, we have discussion about the weight of the regulation that currently that we have right now. For example, for the 12-meter bus is only 16 tons for the GVW, and I don't think it's enough. And this with our new project, especially from our Adiputro side, medium bus is even more. So hopefully this project can be also supported by the government, and maybe from the BUSWORLD, especially they hopefully from Yan, you can support us talking with the government maybe to realign their to readjust their regulation. So I'll be very brief. Maybe we can start our video presentation, and after that, if you have any question regarding our design, especially this medium monocoque, I'll be gladly to answer all the questions. Ms. Liu, can we start the video presentation, please?
Give me a minute.
Oh, and quick additional information. We've been we've been running a test in Solo, one of the city in Central Java, for a month, and it's doing really good and have a good response from the government also. Okay, can we start the video? Thank you.
Yang pertama saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada Adiputro yang sudah mau beruji coba di Solo kaitannya dengan pembuatan prototip bis untuk transportasi massal yang medium, basisnya monocoque katanya. Dan yang saya apresiasi adalah desain ini juga mengadopsi khusus untuk teman-teman difabel. Kenyamanannya saya pikir sudah luar biasa nyaman. Nah, kita berharap nanti Kemenhub sudah merekomendasi kemudian dioperasionalkan di Solo yang pertama. Barangkali itu yang kita harapkan. Dan sekali lagi apresiasi Adiputro, luar biasa.
Solo Batik Trans yang Laudek ini bagi kami teman-teman difabel memang cukup nyaman ya, dan 80% saya bilang ini sudah aksesibel karena sudah ada ram yang memang ram untuk naik turun yang tidak terlalu tinggi, dan itu pas bagi pengguna kursi roda maupun pemakai truk, itu tidak membahayakan. Kemudian di dalamnya juga sudah ada pengaman untuk teman pakai kursi roda, jadi tidak perlu berpindah ke kursi seperti itu, sudah ada pengaman. Tadi saya sudah coba sendiri.
Sangat membantu banget untuk difabel, dan kayaknya ini juga baru satu-satunya ya bis di Indonesia yang ramah difabel seperti ini gitu.
Saya rasa lebih nyaman daripada bis yang sebelum-sebelumnya ya, terutama untuk lantainya kan lebih rendah, jadi lebih mudah untuk akses, terutama untuk yang mungkin udah sepuh-sepuh yang udah tua gitu. Iya, jadi lebih nyaman lah.
Okay, that's our video presentation. So if you have any question, please, I gladly to answer. Probably in the Q&A session, right, Mr. Coco?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So yeah, that's our brief presentation so far to support the e-bus industry. Thank you, Pak Coco.
Okay, thank you so much, and welcome back, Pak Jazali. Sorry, we had to switch to David's video because apparently you had a network issues on your end, but welcome back. And yes. I hope we can cover the rest of your presentation in the Q&A session.
Yeah.
So maybe if you don't mind, maybe I'll start with you then, Pak Jazali. So how do you think, what is left to do? What are the homework for us in terms of charging stations? What does it need to take us where we want to be, in terms of electromobility? And I understand that you cover a lot more than just buses, but how do you think like the strategic and buses as a strategic entry point to this?
Okay, Mas Coco, thank you for the opportunity. Because like this, Mas Coco, in my understanding is like this. When we assign some of the e-bus, it means that the e-bus include the infrastructure. The homework here is so many. I think everybody here is know about this one, because our electricity feed one, still not green, still dirty. Number two is how the power distribute and transmitted to the each area. It's how do you call it? Because mostly in Indonesia, the trafo is only 20 kilovolt ampere, which is for the e-bus infrastructure supposed to be up to the 1 mega in some location. This is what we are thinking. That's why here PT Optima we start to develop our electric source, because in some area we cannot use the PLN grid to provide the electricity power in some area. That's why now we develop like I told to Yan yesterday that we preparing the power source and so on. Yes, we are preparing. Now we in the second set of the to prove that our equipment is reliable to feed the power electricity, which is we use also the green electricity. This is what I'm thinking. Also, how the manage the e-bus is not supposed to be split between e-bus and the infrastructure itself, because it will be not efficient. It will be the cost will be highly. This is what I'm thinking.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Jazali. Thank you so much for your answer. So, and the next is, I think, for Mafela. Mafela, the question comes in Bahasa, but I'll translate it to English. So, how do you see, now there's a lot of talk about G20, and electric bus is part of the, like a gimmick. Some skeptics might say, and as a and it's just a branding. But how can we, actually, rather than becoming just a gimmick, and use the G20 spotlight sort of to build a momentum? What would your advice be for the Indonesian government in this case?
Yeah, thank you, Koko. I think we can use this international event like G20 to have like a pledge. For example, like even now we are talking about the bus. I think this is the momentum for our government to have like similar as what Transjakarta has done, or other cities or other countries around the world done. Like we can have like a roadmap and target to set like the public transport system in Indonesia. For example, like in 2040 or 2030, all of the buses or public transport system in Indonesia will be electrified. And then from that pledge, the Ministry of Transport will take this momentum to build the roadmap, like the tangible roadmap. Then like the private company like Pak David and others could take on that roadmap. So this roadmap will have like the implementations with cities that will be implemented first on the e-bus deployment, and then what kind of technology that will be adopted first. For example, like the 12-meter bus with 320 kilowatt hours battery, for example, or 180 kilowatt hours battery. That's only the example. And then what kind of charging technology that we will use in the first phase, whether it's overnight charging or whether it's using charging charging technology or pantograph chargings. So then the industry could also adopt this government roadmap, clear roadmap that. So then the plan of the government and the supply from the industry will match. So this can accelerate the deployment of e-buses in Indonesia. So the pledge on the G20, the president Indonesia could like announce to the world that public transport in Indonesia will be green, like electrify in 2030, and then followed by action from the Ministry of Transport to build a roadmap. I think that's could be like the best way to do during this international event.
I totally agree with that. I think if we make a pledge, a commitment, and I think Transjakarta is the leader in this, to phase out diesel buses, and once they retire and then replace them with electric units, that would be one option. that I think should be considered not only by municipalities that run bus system, but also maybe the Minister of Transport could also be as an enabler, a facilitator of that transition as well. Thank you so much. So there are questions about electric vehicles in remote areas. I'll lump them into one, but maybe this question first for Pak David. There was a question, if you haven't answered that already in the Q&A.
I think I answered some of them.
Yeah.
Or mostly though.
Right. So would you like to share to the audience what you have about what you already typed in the chat box? Yeah.
Yeah, probably the common question is price. Monocoque body with a leather frame chassis body. Yes, the price is slightly higher, but of course it's more rigid and is safetier. And then question also regarding the battery size. We are still engaging in discussion with some suppliers to discuss properly like how big is the size of the best battery that can be optimized. Like I said, if it's too big or too heavy, it's not a good thing. But if it's too small, also you have a less mileage. But also we have to think about the charging time. So that's probably the common question. And also price and then size and then probably those two common questions, Mr. Coco.
Thank you. Yeah, and charging time is one of the especially very, very important, very, very crucial, because if we remember at some point Transjakarta had this plan to use natural gas buses, and that program failed because of charging time issues. So these are I think we have learned that lesson, and I think we are now better prepared to anticipate such service disruptions caused due to refueling time, which we really want to minimize. Right. Well, thank you for that, Pak Jazali. Back to you, Pak. I think there was a question here about, yes, what about is there any solutions for EVs in remote areas where it is off the grid? Now I understand that transporting fossil fuel is also not very ideal, and I was wondering if electromobility could actually be a solution, not just in urban areas where we have air pollution problems, but also to remote areas where probably there's renewable sources of energy that can be used for electromobility.
Yes, thank you, Mas Coco. I think actually we currently have one of our projects is solar charging. Solar charging is off grid. It's not connected to any electric source from the PL. This is coming from the solar panel, PV, and there's a battery, and also there's smart generator, which is we use the electromagnetic pulse to generate the electricity. Yes, the capacity is still on the medium between 10 and up to 15 kilowatt, but it's there. We now will deliver this one in the some area because currently in Bali they have some short village and the fishermen are already using the electric motor for their boat to find the fish, and now we develop how to charge the electric motor, which is in that area, the last mile of the PLN grid is cannot reach this area. So we developed this one. And maybe for everybody here, we also what do you say? We can be an enabler for the e-bus manufacturer, so so they can provide the e-bus efficiently with some certain amount of the battery that aside for the certain something like this. So we can be an enabler.
Thank you. No, that is, I think, a very important point, because you know, this transformation to electromobility is probably equal parts, you know, electric vehicles and then equal part, you know, renewable energy, right? The transformation in the energy sector, and there are indeed places where there's an energy crisis. Some say it's artificially, you know, it's an artificial energy crisis, just because the grid operator at this point is not investing in sources, renewable sources that, you know, for example, in remote areas, there's solar, you know, but we will need the battery capacity as well. In some places, there are also biomass. So those are the things that I think the other side, yeah, I think we're talking mostly in this forum. We focused on electric vehicle, but I think I'm sure there's parallel forums about renewable energy, and I think that forum is the appropriate venue to address, you know, all these you know, energy poor areas. So well, thank you for that response, Pak Jazali. Mbak Vela, there's a question here from Mbak Ayu Prasetya about wet contracts. Yeah, I think probably some legalese, there's some technical terms in legal. What is a wet contract scheme, Mbak Vela?
So wet contract is everything will be provided by the third parties, and then operators just operate the buses. So the maintenance, the infrastructure will be provided by the other party or lesser.
So if I'm a contractor under a wet contract, what are the you know, what am I mostly responsible for?
You need to provide me with bus, and then you're gonna maintain the bus as well. So if I'm the operators, my responsibility is only to operate the bus.
So the energy is not part of the contract, right? Is that the energy cost?
No, it's only the operation.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope that addresses the question. Well, since we have you, I think was an earlier question from Yale Wong about, and this is, I think, an important question about risk. Yeah, technology risk. For example, now, what in the event of bus underperformance, for example, if there's significant battery degradation, you know, significantly, you know, significant degradation from the advertised or the promised. Who will bear the risk? I mean, is there any in your financing or business model? Is there a way to sort of like mitigate for this battery performance risk? I mean, I think that's the biggest issue here. You know, from a bus operator point of view. Mafela? Sorry. Oh, you're still mute. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So could you repeat it?
Battery life. So I guess the issue here, you know, as we understand, there's going to be a lot of risk associated with this business risk in this transformation, this electromobility transformation. One of which, and I agree, is one of the more significant ones, is what if, you know, the battery life is not as advertised, right? What if the battery degradation is significantly, you know, faster than than advertiser promised. You know, what will happen then, or how should we mitigate such, you know, undesired eventualities?
That's so yeah, this is part of the risk of these electric buses. So the suggestion is to include on the guarantee,
right?
And then there will be like a guarantee from the battery providers.
Okay.
And other scheme that it's already implemented in Europe, for example, like I saw in Edinburgh. So the Hitachi Hitachi, they provide bus for the bus operators, and then the bus is provided by the BYD. But ABB, Hitachi, so they also maintains the battery. So that could be that kind of scheme could be implemented as well. So then they can guarantee the life cycle of the bus that they already promised. For example, like 8 years. So the maintenance and like this is the compatibility as well between the charging infrastructure and the battery. That's also very important. So give it to the professionals actually. So I think it's going to be difficult for the operators to do that because this is the new system. So one of the business model that could be implemented or we can suggest is so they can also doing the maintenance and lease the battery to the operators. So then they can also beside the maintenance, they can also make sure the compatibility between the battery and also the charging infrastructure.
Thank you so much, Afela. Well, I'm going to shift to the other speakers, Pa David and then Pa Jazali. But the question here is, I think some of the participants here, they're also you know, very interested about, you know, long distance bus services, right? For example, the mudik, pulang kampung mudik, the annual you know, end of Ramadan homecoming, you know, traditions. So what are the issues that we want to consider here? Maybe to you first, Pa David, from your from your industry, from your sector, what will be the difference in EV for, you know, for urban operations like the ones in Transjakarta, Batik Solo Trans, and those that are long distance buses, e-buses? I think you're still on mute, Pa David.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Well, based on my knowledge, at least based on my knowledge, I see this EV bus right now. Most popular is run for the city bus. I haven't seen EV bus that be used for the long haul, but it's possible. It's possible. But again, this is based on my knowledge. It's all depends on the charging charging stations and the battery itself. But at least from my industry, body maker, we pretty much have no problem designing not just a city bus with the EV battery, with the batteries, but also the long for the long haul bus transportation with the batteries also. In fact, we are trying to develop monocoque, but for bigger bus, especially for the long haul distance. That's all.
No, I you know, I imagine as much. Pa Jazali, any response about this? You know, the possibility, or what do you think? What steps are required so that we can have also a long distance e-bus?
Thank you, Mas Koko. My understanding that agree with Pa David's opinion here, because mostly here is electric bus is for the city bus. But in my business point of view, for the PT Optima, which is provided infrastructure. So I think let's work together, because this one is will be good there. Now everybody will be good there. So we have long distance e-bus also, but we must to calculate where we put the exact location of the EV charging station to support all kind of the e-bus.
Right.
So what I'm thinking. And also the e-bus can be designed in customers way, because they have certain bucket of the battery which is proper to get the distance where the EV charging station is there. This is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Pak Jazali. But can I just follow up on that thought just a little bit? Let me push you a little bit. So for example, nowadays, one would imagine that if we have fully transformed to electromobility, then there's no need for the quote unquote conventional gas station. Now, what is is there any safety issues or engineering issues of putting in or installing electric charging stations within the vicinity of existing gas stations? Because I think, in my understanding, that's already like the optimal location is the pre-existing gas station. Well, given some adjusted for range and so on, right?
Okay. Again, Mas Koko, between we call it gas station and the electric charging station,
right,
the behavior is different. For the gas station, so everybody come to the gas station and maybe 5-7 minutes the gas to fill the tank is finished. But for the electric charging station, it needs, if we use the fast charging, maybe 20 minutes up to 1 hour or 2 hours.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be a problem, because some of the gas station which is in the city is designed only for the gas station.
Okay.
Their parking lot is quite small. How to manage the traffic management, and also the possibility of explosion, because normally there is some certain distance between the last mile of the charging gun and the last mile of the nozzle of the gas station. This is another issue for the safety issue.
Okay.
That's why maybe in some cases could be applied with the gas station, but it cannot be in general way. We decide that the gas station is the proper location of the charging station.
Thank you for that, Pak Jazali. So and I think that's important to note as well, that I think the switch to electromobility requires some in-depth planning as well, because we cannot just think that to replace, we cannot just naively install charging stations next to a gas station from a location optimality point of view. But also, I think hopefully the technology will improve towards that direction also to reduce the charging time, and I'm sure, I think that would be the next step. And I totally agree. I think thank you for that as well. Yes, city buses, I think it's prime to make the switch. I think we should invest our energy, or our resources into transforming urban buses first, because I think that's the one that is most ready to be transformed. Well, thank you so much for the speakers, Mbak Vela, Pak Jazali, Pak David Jetro Kusumo. It's been a pleasure moderating the session, and I'm sure we will meet again, if not in October, and I'm sure we'll meet again before October. That's what I'm trying to say, and in similar webinar events. And thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, participants, for your questions. And I hope We have all learned something new today. I certainly have. And again, I look forward to BUSWORLD's next event. But before we close for today, we have Mr. Jan de Man from the Jan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Coco. And thank you very much to all the speakers and the organizers of this webinar. Yes, indeed, we will see each other again in October in Jakarta, not in March, which was unfortunately really not possible, but October will be bigger, better, and we'll see each other definitely then live in person, shaking hands. That would be a good idea. We're all looking very forward to this. I noted some remarks during this webinar, mentioning or referring to all the speakers and their great presentations. Once again, thank you for that. And I probably have said it before, but we have to realize that bus and coach operators are energy users. We use the energy that is delivered to us or that can be delivered to us. If this energy is not green energy, then what is the point of electrifying our fleet? So don't get me wrong, BUSWORLD is the strongest supporter of moving to zero-emission bus services, right? But sometimes I have the impression that our industry has evolved a bit further than the steps that are to be taken before us. I am not sure that all the electricity that can be delivered to all the bus depots where there is electric charging infrastructure, that this electricity is produced carbon-free. And if it is not used carbon-free, then what have we done? Our backtail from our buses can be carbon-free, but the electricity is still produced in a old-fashioned way. So please note that our industry is ready, but I really would appreciate a strong webinar or a strong discussion with the electricity providers and the electricity producers to see if it is ready or not. And maybe we should prioritize those regions where the electricity is produced carbon-free and take their first steps in electrifying the fleet. That could be a holistic point of view. And maybe that is also something to be taken to the G20 later this year in Jakarta or in Indonesia. That was the first step. Second thing is that, yes, indeed, as Faila clearly said, leasing models reduce the risk of implementing zero-emission buses in the fleets of either public or private operators. But we also have to realize that outsourcing the charging infrastructure is bringing in new players in the industry, and I know that operators always appreciate a single point of contact. So that is why I strongly call on the bus manufacturers to be the central point, the single point of contact for the operators. So the operator can talk to one person, the OEM, the bus delivery, and he is referring to the producer and the delivery of the charging infrastructure and the other aspects, maybe the leasing aspects, etc. But from the operator side, a single point of contact is very appreciated, because we do not want to come in a situation where our suppliers, either the bus supplier or the supplier of the charging infrastructure, can refer to one another if a problem is not solved. Right? So a single point of contact for the operators seems to be very, very important to us. And then, of course, the last discussion that was so well introduced by Coco is the discussion between charging infrastructure in the depot or opportunity charging. In the depot, it is clear, it is manageable, and it is because depot charging infrastructure has been more advanced, not technically, but operational-wise today, that city lines are making the first steps into the electrification of our fleet, because a city bus can be charged in the depot at night and can be charged for a full day operations, right? It is very much different with long distance buses or buses that are on the way for more days, as David clearly said. So yes, we will need opportunity charging infrastructure, but then the question is, who will manage this? Who will organize this? Will it be a public service that is providing electricity for long distance buses and maybe also for personal vehicles? Or will it be third-party players? Who will do this? It will definitely be a third party. The only solution would be that the long distance coach operator has depots along the way. But then, of course, the problem for the charging time is very important as well. So yes, everything that I have said had been said before by the speakers and by the moderator. Thank you so much for a very good webinar on behalf of BUSWORLD and the BUSWORLD Global. And I definitely look forward to see you in October to continue this discussion, maybe with a drink at hand in a very friendly atmosphere. So thank you very much and congrats on a very good webinar.
Thank you very much, Jan, for that closing remarks. And indeed, I look forward to meeting you in person and hopefully share, a drink or two. And with that, I want to let me return this the stage or the screen to Ibu Leon as the MC for today. Thank you very much.
All right. Pak Koko, thank you very much for leading this interesting session. And Jan, thank you for the closing speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a moment to take some pictures of the speakers with Mr. Jan Deman from BUSWORLD Foundation, Mr. Bakili from GEM Indonesia, and Mr. Koko, our moderator. Okay. Now let's put a smile and give us a minute to capture the session. All right, operator, get ready. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you, everyone. It was very nice to see all the smiles. Now we are presenting our gratitude towards all speakers and moderator for their participations with virtual certificates. The certificate is for Ibu Faila Sufa. Thank you for your participation, Ibu Faila. Second is for Pak Jazali Firdaus. Terima kasih telah bersama kami, Pak Jazali. And our third certificate is for Pak David Jetro Kusumo. Thank you for sharing such interesting presentation, Pak David. And the next certificate is presented to our moderator, Pak Haria S. Dillon. Thank you for conducting today's program amazingly, Pak Koko. And for all attendees who like to have the presentation materials, please access BUSWORLD official website, which is displayed right now on your screen. And through this opportunity, we like to deliver our gratitude to all supporting partners and media, Associates of Indonesian Carrossery Industries, Askarindo, Ikatan Pengusaha Otobus Muda Indonesia, IPOMI, Indonesian Transportation Society, MTI, or Masyarakat Transport Indonesia, Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, ITDP, and Halte Bus, a strategic partner of BUSWORLD. And through this opportunity, we like to appreciate for all supports given to us. Ladies and gentlemen, due to situation we are experiencing currently, BUSWORLD exhibition is moved to October 5th to 7th, 2022. The venue will be still at Jakarta International or G-Expo Kemayoran. On behalf of GEM Indonesia and BUSWORLD Foundation, thank you to all speakers, moderator, and attendees for being with us today. See you at the next webinar. I am Bun Liun from GEM Indonesia. Good afternoon.
Thank you all. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers.
Terima kasih semua.
See you.
Semoga
Thank you.
sehat.
Bye.
This is Jakarta, Indonesia, one of the world's biggest megacities in an urban cluster of 30 million inhabitants. In the bouncing heart of Southeast Asia, BUSWORLD landed for a tremendous first-time international mobility bus and coach exhibition.
I have a very good feeling.
BUSWORLD being right on time in an extremely challenging era for a country of 260 million inhabitants. It became the key factor for a smash hit in the core of the collective transport and bus and coach market. The first edition welcomed the biggest and most popular bus and coach manufacturers and bodybuilders of Indonesia: Mercedes-Benz, Volvo Buses, New Armada and Laksana. All of the key brands were here and 7,000 unique visitors came to the venue together with the international professional press.
For this great opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, presenting you the Volvo B11R and Volvo.
Launching new products like the Volvo B11R or the Mercedes-Benz OF917, updating the audience and the press, open-air ceremonies for new buses, and presenting companies with accessories and components. It all took part in the JI Expo on BUSWORLD Indonesia 2019. The market for buses and coaches in Indonesia was clearly waiting for an exhibition like this. The two core organizing partners of BUSWORLD International, the Federation of Young Bus and Coach Operators IPOMI, and the Federation of Bus Bodybuilders in Indonesia, Askerindo, did a great job in bringing together the operators, the decision makers, and all lovers of buses and coaches in the country. Checking out the latest designs of buses and coaches, components and spare parts on BUSWORLD is easily combined with attending presentations, seminars and expert classes at a conference organized by BUSWORLD Academy. 350 people from 30 countries came to listen to speakers and international mobility specialists from more than 15 countries. BUSWORLD Southeast Asia 2019 exceeded all expectations and was a real bullseye for the bus and coach community.